Okay, welcome to another podcast of Indigenous Roots and Hoots, brought to you by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. I'm your host, Gordon Spence, and today my guest is Erroll Kinistino. A little background on Erroll. Erroll Kinistino is a solo Treaty First Nation member from the Ochapowace First Nation in Saskatchewan. He was born in Whitewood, Saskatchewan, and graduated from Grenville Consolidated High School. In 1989, Erroll was in the original production of Thompson Highway's award-winning play, Dry Lips Oughta Move to Ochapowace. As the character Creature Natawace, his other theater acting credits include Red Sky's performance play, Ravens Stole the Sun, Dancing Skies Centennial Tour in Saskatchewan, All My Relations, Whitewood in 2005, and Cedar, Saskatchewan tour of Far From the Heart in 2012. Film-wise, he's well known for his role as Leon Dila on North of 60, which ran from 1992 to 2002. Other screen credits include Phil the Bartender on Corner Gas, 2-year stint there from 2006 to 2008. And also Cold as Ice Out in the Cold, 2005. And he also played Kenny Bearclaw in Moccasin Flats in 2003. And Saul in This Time Last Winter in 2009. He has been active in Saskatchewan's theater and music scenes for many years as an actor, director, singer, and an acoustic guitarist. He has since become a performing artist on stage, screen, and radio. He's also a videographer and created a short film with the Touchwood Agency youth called Stop the Cycle with his partner, editor Josie Linka. It was a big hit and received coverage by Creason H. of Nelson Bird's CTV show Indigenous Circle, currently working on an Ochapowace First Nations developing a drama club. As a musician, Erroll Kinistino plays a variety of instruments, acoustic and electric guitar, drums, and harmonica. And he also sings traditional songs with a hand drum. He sings and plays his own songs, such as Kokum's Cadillac, Shug Shag Aluk, and 24 Hours. Recently, Erroll's appeared on GX94 Star Search in 2013 and the Golden Eagles Casino's Pride of the Northwest Talent Competition, and was chosen as performer in Voices of the North in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Well, Erroll, thank you very much for joining us, and welcome. That's quite an accomplishment, what you've done over the years as a performer, singer, actor, songwriter, and director, and all the interesting, fascinating stuff of your life. And I met you years ago when you first came to Split Lake in northern Manitoba as working on a summer project with us. Brought along our mutual friend, Hank Fiddler at the time. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing, and yourself, where you grew up, and talk a little bit about your family and where you are right now.
Yeah, thank you, Gord. I was just listening to your introduction there, and that was kind of an older bio that was sent to somebody, and I remember going back on the listening to. I wish I had kept on staying on the reserve for a little bit to develop a theater project there, but my partner in theater, Michelle Serrata, along with four other people, passed on and 5 years ago now. and she came out there to help me out in a project with one of the groups out there, and we did the Legends of the Qu'Appelle, the Legend of the Qu'Appelle, which was actually Pauline Johnson's poem about the legend, about a person that was, waiting to get married, and then the person didn't come back, but they heard the echo in the valley. As a result, they used to say "Katepwe." Katepwe means like in our language, Soto Nishnave is who is calling, and then the French people later on they ended up calling it the Qu'Appelle Valley. So that was with a project that I worked on with Michelle there. But I'm living in Regina now, and Treaty 4 territory. It's about a year and a half or so, a couple of years. But I gravitate to Regina a lot. Come here, and my ancestors have been coming here since probably time immemorial, like 1874, around there. They used to go to they used to come to the Regina exhibition and have set up an Indian village there and powwows over the years. One of my grandmothers actually had a few homes here in the city where she would rent her rooms out to boarders that were working in the city probably in the 1930s and 1940s. And as a result, my uncle Simeon Belanger inherited some of the homes and turned them into a business. He did an auto body business and bought a auto body down in Weyburn, and then moved to Minneapolis. And he would come back to the powwow every year on Ochapowace. But I come from a reserve that's called Ochapowace, but initially it was named after his father or his great grandfather named Kagishuel.
Yes.
And Kagishuel is a Cree word that means loud voice.
Right. Yes.
And indirectly, maybe it came from his being able to shout across the valley, "Hello!" And all you hear echo, "Hello!" And he'd say louder, "Hello!" And they would answer back, "Hello! Who calls? Away name! Katepwe! Katepwe!" It would echo back. And that's indirectly how the valley got its name as, Qu'Appelle. The French people changed it to "Who's Calling." Yeah. But it came from that legend that Pauline Johnson wrote about way back in the 1800s.
Was it common back then to communicate that way in the valley, like sending messages?
I don't really know because I haven't really listened to a lot of stories. But if you're in the valley, you can actually shout, and if you shout loud enough, you'll eventually hear your echo. Yeah, and that's why the valley got there's four lakes. One's called Echo Lake, Pasqua Lake, Katepwe, which means Katepwe means who's calling. Katepwa they call it now. Yeah, and another lake down there. There's 4 lakes down there in the valley near Fort Qu'Appelle area. Yeah. But I actually came from a group of people that were settled in the valley in the 1800s, 1700s. It wasn't a place that our people really wanted to live because, as you know, our people on the prairies were quite nomadic, and our homeland existed of we would travel all the way down to near Medicine Hat, Calgary area, like the Bow River, where it meets the Saskatchewan, and we'd winter there for the winter, because that's where the buffalo were. And then the buffalo would move a little bit this way in the as it warmed up, because the buffalo would move this way. So we followed the buffalo. We weren't really stagnant people that lived on the reserves. Yeah. And
what did you travel with? Like, what was your mode of transportation?
A lot of the people would walk, and a lot of people would travel in horses, because it's about maybe 200-300 miles from here to Medicine Hat.
Yeah,
So it
that's a noise.
took you a bit of time to get down that way, and you'd travel, you'd hunt the buffalo, and then you'd settle in for the winter around maybe Nikanit area, where there's First Nations that are out that way.
Yeah.
And just south of there, there's Wood Mountain, out in the prairies after the Battle of Little Bighorn. The Sioux people came across there, and about 5,000 natives settled in as refugees, kind of indirectly, but they moved into the Assiniboia territory and Moose Jaw, and there's a lot of history in that area.
Like southern Saskatchewan, you're talking about, or?
Yeah, that's Treaty 4 territory. Treaty 4 territory.
So there's Sioux that live in that area. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. They settled into Wood Mountain area. There's the LeCain family, and there's a few other names that are quite renowned today. They intermarried a lot of the ranchers that were there, but the grandmothers, quite a few of them stayed, because when Sitting Bull actually went back to the States, a lot of his people went back with him.
Right.
And a lot of them decided they were going to stay in Canada. So indirectly, the government set up a reserve where they negotiated a homeland. It was called Wood Mountain, and that's the only Lakota reserve in Saskatchewan. There's 5 tribal people that live in Saskatchewan. There's Crees, there's the Lakotas, the Dakotas, there's Saulteaux, like I am, Anishinaabe, or Ojibwe. They're Prairie Indians. And there's Northern Cree, there's Bush Cree, Swampy Cree. And then way in the north, there's the Dene. So within the province. And there's 3 territories here that are actually 4. There's the Treaty 2 territory. That's the White Bear area where my partner Josie's actually from, registered there. And then you move north, there's Treaty 4 where I live in, and it's 175 square miles. It goes from Dauphin, Manitoba, all the way down to Medicine Hat, and all along the border, the 49th parallel. So there's quite a bit of land in that territory. When I say I'm from the Treaty 4 territory, it means I'm from a very vast territory, because just north of there is also Treaty 6.
Yeah.
And then Treaty 8 in the north. So
I always thought you were Cree.
Yeah, a lot of people think I'm Cree because I live in Cree country.
Yeah. Are there a lot of very many Saulteaux that live in Saskatchewan, or? Yes,
there is quite a few. There's a Cody First Nation where my grandmother's from, and her name was Charlotte Fable. And the next reserve over is Keys, where my great grandmother was from, and then there's Little Bone, which is Sakamay, which is another Saulteaux reserve. Pasqua, Muscapine, they're kind of all First Nations there, and Kisiku's in there. There's quite a few.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I always thought Saskatchewan mostly Cree.
Cree. Yeah, there is a lot of Cree people. We've become cousins with the Cree.
Yeah.
Our language is quite similar, and the way when we have our powwows, and there's a mixture of marriages between the people. Like, for example, all my sisters took up and married a lot of the Cree people that live on Ochapowace, like the George family, who are descendants of the Kakishwe people, Loud Voices people. Yeah. And Loud Voice, he's original signer on Treaty 4, and but later on, his son Ochapowace took over the reserve, and then later on he said, "Well, why don't you just call the reserve Ochapowace after me?" And so the government liked that idea, but then they amalgamated 2 reserves there. Yeah. They put Ochapowace and Kakishwe together. So we've been living as two members of bands in there. So recently, there's a court case where we possibly might split into 2 bands or even 3. Ochapowace, Kakishwe, and Ochapowace. So we have an interesting history.
Absolutely. And,
I'm right snap dab in the middle of all that stuff now. So we have to make some decisions, and
Yeah.
it causes a bit of chaos, but yet it's very interesting. And
Yeah.
finally, it's getting to be brought out into the open and recognized. The government did admit, okay, we did reluctantly amalgamate you guys together, put you guys together. Now you have a bigger land space to consider, and now you have to make up your idea which band do you want to live on, Ochapowace, Kakishui, or Ochapowace.
So they're gonna kind of. How do people feel about this? Like being separated into three separate bands now.
There's the older people that they initiated this and actually put their name on the lawsuits as plaintiffs. They're kind of in the know. They kind of know what's been going on, and even they're aware of this for the last 50 years, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a next generation of people that don't know. So our job, in a sense, as communicators, storytellers, as artists, is to create venues where they can understand and go, oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, when my family came to Ochapowace, my father was from Littlebone, which is Yorkton. Mm-hmm. And he married my mom so she could transfer to Littlebone, Osakame, up near Yorkton. But she didn't like that reserve too much because it was so small, and they were trying to do away with it and make the people go live down in Osakame. Wow. So it was very poor. So my grandfather, Alex Belangi, who was a headman back then, said, why don't you transfer to Ochapowace? And that's what my father did. He transferred to Ochap, but one of the elders spoke up for him. His name was George, but he was related to the descendants of the Kakishui people. Yeah. And because my dad was married to his sister, his first cousin, her name was Eleanor Punikapo, who was from Sakame. Yeah. That he said, this man, Lawrence Kinistino, was already indirectly a family member because I married his sister, his cousin. So I'm speaking up for him, and then the elders and the other people that had a say, they just agreed. They put their check mark, and my dad transferred onto the Ochapowace Reserve. So our descendants, he came from that in 1949 or 50 when my dad signed on to Ochapowace. Now my sisters, there's 9 of us, 7 sisters and 2 brothers, all were our Ochapowace band members, but we know our little history from there. And then we can choose to either be Kakishui people, or we could go with my mother's descendancy, who's the Belangi family. Yeah. She was a descendant of the Ochapowace and or Ochapowace people. So nowadays it's up to us to educate our people to say, okay, you have a choice. You can either go to, if they're going to rename Ochapowace and Kakishui or Ochapowace and Ochapowace, there's a way that you have a right to descendancy by our oral history. And then they can take that to the government, and the government can say, oh yeah, you were a Ochapowace member way back in the 1860s or whatever. And then 1874, rather, after a treaty. And then you became a Kakishui member, or Ochapowace member, and whatever, they'll sort all that stuff out.
Wow, that's incredible.
It causes a lot of, really makes us look at ourselves as people under a microscope. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know I could belong here or here.
Yeah. So would that mean that you'd have to move if you made a
indirectly switch? I think a lot of our family are going to live on the Ochapowace Reserve.
Just stay where you are. Yeah.
They have descendancy there. But there's a few of our family members that say, hey, I might consider moving to the new reserve, Ochapowace. And through our TLE, our Treaty Land Entitlement, we already bought land as the Ochapowace First Nation. Yeah. That's included inclusive to the Ochapowace descendancy or their population.
So where would this be, like, in relation to, like, just Regina? Would it be close to Regina or Yorkton or?
It's near Whitewood, Saskatchewan, really.
It's where the land is, yeah?
Yeah. Ochapowace is just north of Whitewood, and it could have bordered the Qu'Appelle Valley, and then the Ochapowace Reserve did border the Round Lake area, and then there's about 4 or 5 other reserves there too, like Cowsis and Kagawistahau and Sakame. And
so it's new lands. You're talking about new lands and new reserve altogether?
Not really, no. We've had this land since 1874, when the government kind of put a map out that this land's going to be for you. Now come back out of Nikanit where you're hunting buffalo and live on this reserve. And that's how the people came back this way. But that was interesting when you mentioned that. That was indirectly why I wanted to create a theater group on a reserve, so we could put some of this history together and put it on in a play format using actors, like bring Kagishio together, bring Ochapowace alive, bring the Treaty Commissioner Morris and all these people alive, the interpreter Charles Pratt, and bring these characters alive and put them up on stage, and then you see them go, oh, is that, and indirectly, in the back of my mind, I still want to do that play, because I've done outlines of it at Treaty 4. Yeah. And then when my friend Michelle Serrata was alive, we did the beginning of the legend of the Qu'Appelle, which it was around just before treaty time. That's how that valley got its name. So indirectly, I've been doing a research and sitting on a lot of little knowledge about how to. I haven't written any grants up available. I should write a grant, and so it'd give me free time to just concentrate on writing and developing a script. Because I sat in on the court hearings here in the city of Regina and also on the reserve, and there were big court hearings that when some of our people from Ochapowace actually took the government to task. You guys did wrong. You put us together, and we lived reluctantly together for over 150 years. Yeah. Now we want you to acknowledge that you did wrong. Yeah. And that's our first step, and they did. Now our decision is, do we break into 2 or 3 names? Gagishi, Ochapowace, or Ochapowace, or how are we going to do this? So now the people are thinking, and our elections are coming up pretty soon this year. So the next generation of headmen and chiefs that are going to consider all this information are going to have to help the people, inform them. And they got a big court document about 500 pages long. If you want to read this, you can read it. But some of this stuff is interesting in there, but it's more lawyer jargon and judge jargon. It's more up to maybe me or fellow artists or the headmen to just story tell with our families at the powwow or at a feast or at a gathering. And, like maybe you would, if you ever went home and had a meeting with your family, with the Spences, you would just have that information of the Spences. This is what the Spences think. That's up to us now. This is what the Kinistinos think. This is what the Belangis think. Yeah. And this is what the George family think. And then we'll come to a bigger, as we go on down the road. I hope I live long enough to find out where our people are going to settle, and they have a freedom to be able to go to any of those places, really.
Are they kind of connected, or are they?
Oh yeah, they're all connected. Blood-wise.
I mean, land-wise. Is the land kind of connected?
No, they're close.
Yeah.
Because Ochapowace treaty land entitlement, and I was on the band council back then. We agreed then to accept money to create our treaty land entitlement, which we included Ochapowace and Ochapowace First Nations. Yeah. To buy land, to buy land that was owed us from the treaty time. They say, you guys only had maybe 100 people on your band list. And we say, no, we had 200 people on the band. You owe us 200 more per people, which includes how many acres per person. And then they agreed, didn't want to go to court. Okay, yes, we agreed. We amalgamated you guys together and took your land away. Now we're going to give you land back to buy. So all our land that we bought, it was all under Ochapowace treaty land entitlement, but the members that were there were descendants of the Chickasaw people and Kakishwa people and Ochap people. So we all kind of knew, our leadership knew that our history and our potential for this day, that it was going to come, that it was going to be recognized. Now the government has recognized that they illegally amalgamated us against our will way back 150 years ago. Now they're challenging us. It's up to you to say where you belong now. And it's up to you to decide what you're going to do. So it's going to cause a lot of confusion and a lot of infighting already. There's, I don't want to go there. No way I'm from there. And other ones are saying, really? I'm from there? I mean, I can go there? They don't know. So it's all new, so it's exciting times, really.
Yeah, exciting. It looks like you have quite a challenging time ahead to try and sort this out and give people time to think about it. And it looks like it's not going to happen overnight, probably a couple more years at least, I think, Growing up as a child, Erroll, were you taught traditional language and culture? And where did you learn that from? Your parents, grandparents?
Both my parents went to residential school. My mom went to Brandon Residential School from 1938 to about 1948. And my dad, around the same time, he went to a Catholic school, which is Maribel. And in those schools, they did a number on my parents, both of them. So when we were growing up, and this happened to a lot of our people in the area, they didn't want us to get preached at by the schools and get hit because they spoke Soto and Cree, and like my mom was Cree and Michif, and they spoke some of that before they went to the schools. Mm-hmm. And my dad was fluent in Nishnawbe Soto when he went to Maribel. So they're punished and they're scolded and strapped to not learn their language. Yeah. So consequently, when they had us children, they said, we're not going to teach our kids this. They did. The schools did a number on our parents. Yeah. So they didn't speak it fluently in our home. Only when our uncles and some other people came, we could hear them speaking. Tante, would say, my mom would say, my dad would say, I need you again. And his relatives say, Kan good no, which means everything's okay. And Kindas, for how are you? The same thing as Tante, Wanata, Kimaga, So it kind of became trilingular. Anin.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So Kan good no, it's like and then so indirectly, my grandfather would speak Soto when he'd come to visit us, and my grandmother when he'd go visit them. And when we'd go to the odd ceremony, we'd hear the elders speak their language. I went to a rain dance with my grandfather when I was about maybe 4 years old or 3 years old, and they still had horses then. They still had wagons. Some had jalopy cars, but they went to the back of way out in the fields, back in the Lonesome Prairie, and they had a rain dance here. The last one on our reserve, Ochapowace, was 1958, and I was a child when I went there. And my kokum, who was at the time, her name was Elizabeth. We called her Liza Belangi. She was a Lewisan originally from Kakustau. And I was all excited. The feast was there. And there was food, there was soup, there was sandwiches, and there was cake and candies. And I, as a kid, I wanted to have the cake and candy, and my kokum, she hit my hand like that. No, I was Pauline. So I had to sit down.
Yeah.
And then she gave me a little bit of bannock, a little bit of rabbit, a little bit of deer meat, a little bit of rice pudding with raisins in it.
Yeah.
And I was reluctantly eating these. And then she said, now you can have the cake and the candies from the feast.
Yeah.
So that was beautiful. And they were all speaking their own language. And then I heard these kokums crying, and they were wondering why, who's hurting my kokums, I thought. And I went to the lodge, and that lodge was like this. It was lodge like this, and the nest was up there. It was called a Thunderbird nest. They were praying to the Thunderbirds for the rain.
Yeah. And
they were whistling with their eagle whistles. And I looked, nobody's making my kokums cry. And I said, they're praying. They're praying for my nieces and nephews today that are born, the unborn generations, and they're having a ceremony was basically what they were having. And it was really special to me because I was 3 years old and my mind was just clear.
Right.
And one of our people are called Wachistan. They're Cree people on the reserve. But that's what that means, that nest up in there. That's where the eagle Thunderbird nest at the lodge when it's beginning like this is. So I did learn bits and pieces. I'm not fluent in my language. Because my parents didn't want us to go through what they went through in residential school. They wanted us to have an easier time when we left the reserve to go get jobs. So we'd speak English fluently and that. And they reluctantly kind of made a mistake, but I blame that on the government for stealing our language, stealing our stories, stealing our culture. Now I can't speak to my grandchildren very well in our language. My father, bless his heart, he passed on a couple of years ago. He sat us down at the table to eat, and he said, I'm going to teach you a prayer. He says, you say after me, Miigwech, Kiche Manito, Kakinagego, Unisising, Amigoyen. Hi. And that's the prayer I carry, but it's the only bit of language he taught me. Yeah. And that basically means, Miigwech, thank you. Kiche Manito, the Great Spirit. Thank you, Great Spirit. Kakinagego, for all our being, in this world, in this universe where we live. Kakinagego, Unisising, for the food we eat. Manikwayan, for the stuff we drink. For the water we bathe in. For the rivers, for the lakes, for the rain. Hi. I didn't know that was going to be a special. That's the only thing he really taught me, other than when I'd ask him questions. Well, how do you say good day, Dad? How do you say have a nice day? And he says, well, the Cree say kizate, nice and hot. Nagisigan, which means like it's in Soro or his Nishnaway, it's a good day. It's a nice day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then my mom would teach us Mitchip and bit of Cree. She'd say, Kipaha la bush. Kipaha. You know that word.
Close the door.
Shut your,
close your mouth.
Kipaha la bush.
Yeah.
Or Kipaha la port. Kipaha la port.
That's kind of Cree and Mitchif mixed together, right?
And they say window. Kipaha la Bernette. Yeah. She kind of spoke that way. She said, Mate la vet.
Yeah.
Mate la vet, which bring a washcloth or whatever.
Yeah.
Or nata di loaf.
Yeah.
Nata, bring some water. So it was good.
It's interesting, because a couple of things there. That's Michif is the Métis language. It's really connected to Cree, I guess, Soto. Cree, Soto, Michif are all kind of...
it's a big language out here on the prairies.
Yeah.
Michif, because...
is that right?
Through the trading times of buffalo, the buffalo trading times, around this territory was immense hunting of buffalo.
Yeah.
So they came across the Michif, and the Michif, they spoke a little bit of French, English, and Dakota. Dakota, and they spoke a little bit of Cree, and then they spoke a little bit of Scottish.
Yeah.
And that was a prairie language because buffalo hunting was big out here way back then.
Imagine, yeah, because we're right in the prairies there. You must have, or your ancestors anyway, must have had an invasion of people coming across from the east to the west there when the west was opening up.
The train was a big thing.
Right.
And the train was a big thing that came to Regina in probably like the 1850s. It was coming through this way. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your time as an actor. I guess one of the areas that I'm interested in talking to you about was your stint and your time with North of 60, with Tom Jackson, Tina Keeper, and others on that show. Your character was Leon Dila, I think it was.
Leon Dila.
Yeah, and that was from that was like 10 years. Did that was that run that long, or I thought it was a bit shorter than that?
I think it was 10-year run, and then they did about 4 1-hour shows of a year apart, so around about 14 years.
Yeah. Well, how was that like? What was your? How did you get that part in that? And how was that like? Okay,
it was really quite. Now that I think about it, now that it's done and gone, and a history, it's still a big part of an impact on Canada culturally and throughout the world. And I'll give you a reason for that is it was broadcast in about 100 countries throughout the globe.
Wow.
And at its time, it was done in Europe and Spain and France and, different places, Czechoslovakia, no doubt, those countries in there, Germany and in England. At the time when it was, I don't think now, it's probably not, but during that time, as the Atlantis Alliance released it to those countries so it could fill up the television hour, And I kind of found that out when I went to the Pan Am Games, and I think it was in 2000. About 2000, I went there, and then the people from Pan America were there, from Central America.
What countries?
Aztecs, Indians. They were from Panama. I think they were from down Central America. The Aztec Indians have those great, big, long peacock feathers, way up high, and they have bells, and they have their guys have shirtless tops, and the women dance with their little horns. Ooh, ooh. Anyway, those people were performing at Winnipeg, and I was interested, and I went to see them, and wow, those guys, Aztecs, are good. They put a fire right in the middle of the thing, and then they put their feet right on the fire, and then they pull it away. And it was intriguing watching these people. Wow, bare feet going on the fire, and they pull it away. Later on, they told me, said, "Are you Leone? Are you Leone? Oh, you acted with Petro, and also Rosa." And I didn't understand how come they're naming the characters, but they used to watch North of 60 in Spanish.
Yeah.
Down in Central America, and they got my autograph. So I had to sign Leone and Rosa, for Spanish, and that's kind of how I got to know that they watched it in Spanish down there. And then my dad asked me one time, he was watching in Winnipeg. He's watching the French channel, and he just started watching. He said, "Hey, son, when did you learn how to speak French?" Said, that wasn't me, Dad. That was just the interpreters. They interpreted.
Yeah.
They just did the language and.
They have a voiceover.
Yeah, the voiceover actors were doing our language.
Yeah.
There was one person to do about 7 languages, 7 characters.
Wow.
So this guy could do Rosie and Leon.
Rosie was your wife, wasn't she in the show?
Yeah, the storekeeper. Yeah. And then also she was acted with the storekeeper. I forget his name now.
So, like, how did you? I guess obviously you had to audition for the part, and what was that like? Tell us a little bit about that, and what was it like being on site?
Yeah, I was always interested in theater, and that summer, that North 60 was recruiting people all over Canada. We were doing a show down in Port Capel, and it was kind of roughly about the treaties, and a guy from Hobbema, Alberta, who went to the same school as I did out in Kimbercody Farm in Ontario. He married a woman named I forget what her name is, Kathy. She was from Ontario, but she ended up going to live a married life with Darryl Wildcat, and then we tracked him down to write a play on treaty at Port Capel, and he did that, and he wanted me to act as Kagishuil, which was Loud Voice, a descendant of Ochapowace, and I was going to do that. I wanted to do this role. It so happened that I was going way down to Ontario, down to where my partner at the time, Deborah Wild, is from Stony Point, Kettle Point. I'd already booked that trek to go down there with our two sons, Jesse and James. So we had to go there, and I had to say I can't be in the show. So, but when we got back to the Port Capel area, or Chap, we went down to the play, and we watched the play. It was a great play, Port Capel. And then Darryl says, "You know what? You have a band. Can you take some of the youth here up to Regina to audition for the show? They're looking for young actors. They're looking for kids or children. They're looking for people about TV's age, 17 or 16." So I loaded up these people in the van. We went there and found the actor office. It was right near this hotel of all places. Upstairs, they went there, and they went to read for this TV's role. Yeah.
TV was a character on the show.
Yeah, and then Laurie's role or whoever said, "Oh yeah," and said that's what they're good 4 or 5. Back in those days, they took a picture of you on a Polaroid. They took a picture of the kid on a Polaroid, staple on the back of his name, address, phone number, parents' name, how to contact you, what nation you're from. And that they had about 20 or 30 of those. And then they looked at me and they said, Are you here to audition for any parts?" And I said, "No, I'm just driving." "Well, we have a character you might be interested in reading for named Leon." And I said, "Well, I wasn't really prepared to do this, but you're coming here tomorrow? Just take it and read the script, and then at the end of their auditions for the kids, you can come and do this one." So that's what I did, and I did the reading, and lo and behold, they end up getting a hold of me later on, about maybe 2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah,
I got this phone call from Calgary. They're sending this. "Yeah, we're interested in where you are." And I was way down I went way down to Nevada with my mom on an elders trip. We went down there to watch our ball players play ball.
Yeah.
And in Gardnerville, Nevada, our Ochap Thunder were playing down there. And I was there as a chaperone for my great grandfather, actually, Arthur George, and I would guide him to the ball diamond, make sure he ate and all that stuff. But somehow they had phoned a number, and I phoned this number. Number back. "Oh, really?" Because back in those days, I think it just came on answering service at home. Call this number, and I called that number. "Hey, don't tell anybody right now, but we're interested in bringing you in for an audition for Leon's part, and then we'll see how it goes. But you have to come to Calgary." So all the way back from Gardnerville, which is a kind of a special place. It was a place they did Bonanza. Remember a long time ago, Ed Sullivan?
Yeah.
Bonanza. They did the Ponderosa.
Yeah.
That was kind of where they were doing the ball tournament. So some of them went to that. They went to watch that. They went to the Ponderosa, and I was all excited. I was traveling through Yellowstone National Park when I learned about this, phoning them. That Yellowstone National Park is where the old the geyser goes up.
Geyser, yeah.
We all call him the old geezer. and anyway, I was just, Mom, these people are calling me to Calgary to go for this audition, because she knows I'm an artist,
Yeah.
So I was just excited, kind of, but I couldn't tell anybody on the bus, or they didn't know anything about this anyway. So when I did get home, I didn't have very much money. I had a vehicle, but said I need some money to go to Calgary, and I went to my chief, Denton George, and he gave me a couple $100. Here, go and audition. So I got my sister Joyce came with me. We drove all the way down to Calgary. We stayed at Robin Meltingtallow's place. Robin Meltingtallow was the person that did the casting for the extras and all that. And the next day, I went down to the office of the casting office where they had a camera set up, and then I was auditioning for Leon's part.
Yeah.
You know who else is auditioning for Leon's part?
Who else?
Gordon Spence.
Wow.
And Jimmy Herman. 2 big name actors.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
The young people, and then we were all waiting our parts for Leon and all that stuff. And said, I'm not going to get this part. If Gordon's here, he's probably going to end this part. Or Jimmy Herman, a big name actor from Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
He acted with as a Paiute Indian on there. He actually ended up with those braids on North of 60 with those red braids. That's Old Joe. He got the part as Old Joe.
Oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah.
So Jimmy Herman told me, he says, "You just do the best you can. You never know what these white people are doing." Eh? He says,
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, all right." So I went back, read my lines. I went in there, and about a week later, they ended up calling me on the reserve, my little house on the reserve. Said, "Yeah, that's there. Oh, we have a good proposition for you. We want you to come in for 4 shows, and then we'll see how it goes from there. We have 4 shows written that has Leon's character, and we'll just see how it goes from there. We'll offer you, we'll guarantee you 4 shows, and that's it." So I was all excited. Hey, I'm going to go. And I think I flew down there, and I had to do these 4 shows. The first show was directed by Stuart Margolin. Stuart Margolin calls me at the hotel, and I recognized him from a television show that I'd watched for years. Holy man, this is a big name guy. Stuart Margolin. I forget what the name of that show was. But anyway, he told me, he says, "You're going to play an alcoholic character on this show." And as a young actor, performer, I was only 39 at the time.
Yeah.
He says, a lot of people make a mistake, and if you're going to act like an alcoholic, you're going around like acting real drunk all the time. And it's,
Yeah.
You look at some real alcoholics and watch them and how they pretend to be sober, and they're actually really looped.
Yeah.
That's how I'd like you to kind of consider your character. And so that's all I took from him, eh?
Yeah.
And the show that I was talking about, there's the Rockford Files.
Okay.
The Rockford Files, way back. That's Stuart Margolin acted on that show, and his name was, I recognized his name right away. Eh?
Yeah. I remember that, but Gordon Spence did play a part in that, didn't he? Got on the show later on, didn't he?
Yeah. I'll finish my story. Yeah. And then after we left that audition, later on, they told me as the years went on, and said, "You know what? When we didn't have our parts written for Gordon, or we didn't have parts written for Joe. We had parts written for Leon and Rosie. But when Gordon came in there, he was taller and stronger than Rosie. And no, that's not the character. She couldn't boss him around.
Yeah, okay.
When they put Joe in there, it's going, no, he's just good height for him, but he looks a little too old. That's more like her father.
Yeah.
So when Leon came in, he was shorter than Rosie. And said, yeah, there's the guy we're interested in.
That was you.
Somebody she can boss around and take no shit from. That's kind of how I got the part.
Well, that's exactly how I remember seeing you on that show, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rosie would boss you around, tell you what to do, and you'd just shuffle off. And,
Yeah,
okay.
but indirectly, that's how Rosie's character come from her tribal self. She's from a tribe called the Six Nations, Mohawk, Iroquois Confederacy.
Right.
Down in the Iroquois Confederacy and the Six Nations, the women are the bosses. They're the matrilineal bosses, and they're used to telling the men what to do and how to, you know.
Yeah.
You saw it on the Kanisataki at the end when Ochapowace was doing her film. The warriors probably would have started shooting back at the Suerte.
Yeah.
But the women stepped up front and said, "You guys sit down."
Yeah.
Boom! Listen to us. Those guys wanted to shoot back.
Right.
And the clan mother stood up and they stopped that bloodbath, and they stopped lasagna and whoever those guys were, because those guys wanted to, let's be a man. Come on, Surete, shoot me and I'll shoot you right back. The women stood in there and just stopped them. And Rosie was from those. So her character carried over onto the show. Yeah.
I remember seeing you in Ottawa around that time when the summer of the Oka crisis.
Yes, right.
You were in Ottawa. I don't remember that time meeting up with me, and you were interested in. You were trying to go to Oka. Did you ever make it to Oka?
Yes, we did. My brother-in-law Ernest George and I, after we were doing our research in the RG10 library and all that, we had a day off. We said, well, we have a day off, and let's go down to Montreal and we'll go up to the Oka. And they all agreed, so we all pitched in. We rented a car, and we used my brother-in-law's credit card to rent the car. And we went right into Oka, and we met Ellen Gabriel, and they took us right into the center of the village. We had a great time, and all of a sudden there was this big bang went off, boom, and everybody said, "Oh!" We thought we were going to get caught in a crossfire. Sûreté de Quebec, you could see their armored cars going around, and then he got a phone call. Gabriel says, "Oh, it's just my uncle or my cousin. He was doing mechanics, and the car backfired to the muffler, and everybody went back to normal again." Oh, and we went down to the monastery. We met Lena Bomswin, who was doing a documentary, and then she warned us, you guys, you better be careful around here. Going to the Mercier Bridge, don't go on a bridge by yourselves, because the French people they want blood of the Oka people or the Mohawk people, and if they know you're Aboriginal, and they'll torture you or they'll grab you. And sure enough, that's when they're throwing bricks right through the cars as they're leaving and all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Les Chavaz, they're all going crazy because they wanted the bridge traffic to open up and all that stuff. So I did get down there. And when we did walk around the city of Montreal, you could feel the tension and the hatred towards you as Aboriginal people who had long hair back then.
Wow.
And so we didn't have very safe. We were safe, but when you're going across the Mercier Bridge, or going to set a sign said the Mercier Bridge, I was driving and I was going to turn there, and my brother-in-law just looks at me and says, "Are you going to go to the Mercier Bridge? Remember, Alana Bompsman said, don't go." And I just kept on going. But the look in his eye, it's just like, that was an incredible time. But Rosie's character did she was part of the Mohawk Nation.
Yeah.
Iroquois. And when she passed on a couple of years ago, I was going to go down to her funeral at the Longhouse, and her sisters called me. I made myself from Ochapowace to Winnipeg. And I was going to jump on the plane at 1:00, and they contacted me and said, you better not come because our ceremony in the Longhouse already started at sunrise in the morning when the sun comes up, and then we did the things in the Longhouse, and she was already in the ground by about 10.
Oh, okay.
But your name was mentioned here. They said in the Longhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, they said in our life. They said Rosie was not married. She did not get married in real life, but on television, on North of 60, she did marry Leon. Erroll Kinistino was going to come today, and everybody just laughed and they applauded. He was going to come, but we told him we better not come because his ceremony is going to be done by the time you get here.
Yeah.
So the family was honored that I was going to come, and one of these days I'm going to stop out in Six Nations and I'll put some tobacco and sing a song, and because she was a very important part of my life, my artistic life, and we made an impact on people throughout the world.
Yeah, you did. Absolutely. That show was tremendous. It went on for a long time, and I always enjoyed watching it, and it was kind of a weekly thing for me. And I was always say, hey, man, that's my buddy there, Erroll Kinistino, playing Leon.
I'll tell you one more story of it. When we were doing the show North of 60,
yeah,
I'm a ball fan, ball. And
and
it happened to be baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays were playing against the Atlanta Braves, and the Atlanta Braves fans are always go with their big tomahawks.
Right.
And I was into watching the series, the World Series.
Yeah.
And North of 60 was on that time, and I was kimochi watching, listening on the radio. And what's the score? Oh, the Blue Jays. Oh, darn, they're gonna lose. And then, sure enough, they lost and they tied it up. And the World Series was on, and then the final games, they came out with the stats. They looked at the stats in the office of North of 60, and they said the World Series had about 800,000 viewers in Canada, and North of 60 had 1.2 million viewers. They outdid they outdid the World Series.
Wow.
And then I looked and said, holy moly, we're on a big show here, man.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I said, I like the World Series, but I better start liking North of 60 as well, eh? And I started really respecting the people and came close with the people who were doing the sound, the wardrobe,
right.
The accountants, the producers. I started paying attention to all these artists that were you don't see them on the screen. Yeah. They see us on the screen. We get the credit as actors, but then at the tail end, you see the things going up.
Yeah.
Those guys, the sound crew, the lighting crew,
right.
the electric, the best boys, best grips. I started learning who those guys were, eh?
Yeah.
The accountants and the people that paid us, the people that did the sound. You never. I said, wow, it was just a big team, a big successful team, and I started really learning to be family with them, eh? I'd say hi to George Tennant, who was on. He did the sound. He had headphones like this, and he had those guys out there with the microphones, getting Rosie, and then Leon, and they say, for example, they'd say, "Okay, Rosie's line was, you want to talk to me, Leon?" And then the microphone goes, "Yes, I do. Oh, what's up?" And Leon says, "Let's get married." And then Rosie's lines are kind of big. "Huh? I love you. I love you." And then all of a sudden they go in for a kiss. They go in for a smoochie. And Leon has to put his lips up like this because she's a little taller. Rosie has to duck down a little bit. And then they depart. Leon just reluctantly proposed to her. Yeah. And indirectly he's going to propose to her. You know why? So he doesn't have to witness against her in court for assaulting him, for throwing that big glass thing at his head. Eh?
Yeah.
In a court of law, you can't witness against your partner. That was the
That's hilarious, man.
yeah, indirectly the underlying story of those. So I realized I was in a big show, and I started when I was at home. I would go to these gatherings, the First Nations gatherings, and when I'd get out of the vehicle going to watch my sons play ball, and they say, "Hey, there's that guy on North 60." That was what I was called. Is that guy on North 60? He's that guy on North 60. Eventually, they'd come to. They knew I wasn't Leon. I wasn't TV or any of those characters, Sam or anything like that. I just started autographing Leon to Leon. Thanks for being a fan, North 60 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'd hear that always at a ball tournament or whatever, a hockey tournament. There's a guy from North 60, And I learned to hear. Sometimes I would just acknowledge him. I was always really glad to be on that show. I was always really, it was one of the biggest things in my career in a sense. It gave me a profile. It gave me ability to go do something else. Like today I do music or storytelling or play reading or just to be Erroll, but also Leon,
Yeah. I see you once in a while.
Yes, Gordon, I'm glad we made friends.
Yeah, you're singing. You're singing these days, and I see you on Facebook and doing these performances, and it looks like you're still doing well. You're looking good, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
This podcast is about Aboriginal culture and sharing your knowledge and humor, and you always do a good job of that. But as Indigenous people, we have many stories that have been passed down to us, and but we're also part of our work here at the Legacy Hope Foundation surrounds education, and we're trying to promote a greater understanding about Aboriginal culture and reconciliation. Do you feel a need, or do you have some kind of a message about reconciliation and how we can kind of make this country a better place for everyone to live?
Yes, I do. I think our reconciliation, in a sense, through the generations, has changed over time. Since 1492, when I studied history, our people were pretty. It seemed like we, in the prairies, we like to be the buffalo hunters, but originally our descendants, the Anishinaabe people, came from around Thunder Bay. We came from the land of the giants, the big Sabe, the sleeping giant, and we emigrated kind of in the wake of the woods area through Kenora and ended up on the prairies. And now, because we heard of these things called the Pasqua Mustus, they say the prairie cows, the buffalo, and that we could live free. So there was a time when the buffalo provided a good existence here for the people. And, I think when I looked at Daschuk's book, when the civilization arrived here, John A. Macdonald and Dewdney, we have these really English high-powered people that made decisions for their people, their English descendancy. Dewdney was not a really great man. He started the residential schools. He wanted to delete the language and culture from the people, the Aboriginal people, and he did not want to make treaties to give the people a good beneficial treaty. He wanted to, in a sense, put them on the ropes, and they were almost starving because the buffalo were gone. And then he would make treaty. So they would lower their standards and say, well, this guy will help us out. If we agree to give up our vast territory and live on these little places called reserves. And indirectly, they meant for us that our language would die, our people would die. We'd get smallpox or diphtheria or measles, and we would die from these pandemics or starvation, and consequently, lots of us did. So I think nowadays, it's not just the Indian people that are learning that history. It's the other people that come to the First Nation University of Canada that's just down the road here. and learn what they did in lieu of civilization, in lieu of making this British North America colony they call Canada into a country that would take advantage of the Indians, take away their land, and put them on little reserves and watch them disintegrate. And today it kind of backfired. Our reserves are kind of the last places where we think this is our homeland, this is our nationhood, this is our sovereignty. And then it's turning around where we're mushrooms to the next generation of people. So that's where we got to reconcile. We have to learn the history, and we have to educate not just ourselves, but the people on the outside of our communities to gain their support, because they are in power. They're sometimes they're in the law that makes the government of Canada. They work for Indian Affairs, or they work for medical services, or they work in these things that could change their attitudes towards Indians and maybe one day grant the people, like true independence, sovereignty, self-government. That's what we've been working for in the last while, and it's a step to. If that's part of reconciliation, then I think it's really important that we do the groundwork, the basis of that. When we see people that don't understand us, take it with a grain of salt. Don't just pick up the rifle and want to shoot right away. Think, put on your thinking cap, do your writing with your pen and your art and your poetry and your maybe an essay, or do learning on Aboriginal studies or history, or become a mathematician and discover some new things in math. Our people are branching out now. There's people are into astronomy. They're studying space and being engineers. We can't say that our people are just lawyers, teachers, and nurses now. We've gone beyond that. There's teachers, nurses, or ministers. We're actually becoming principals of the schools, and we're becoming people that are in decision-making places, and that's where we got to go with this reconciliation, so that there's a hope of a legacy of hope for our future. And as artists, we have that challenge as well, to be happy and say, don't just let all this stuff get you down. Right. Go to a powwow, go to a festival, go to a writing school and write about this stuff, and make it good, make it happen. Miwasin, Imastisuin, Imatian.
Thank you, Erroll Kinistino, you're a real inspiration, and I really enjoyed talking to you this afternoon. Before we close, the other part of Roots and Hoots is the Hoots part.
Yeah.
Hoots meaning something funny or a song.
Do you want to drive in Kokum's Cadillac? Do you want to ride in Kokum's Cadillac? She came a long way from the Red River cart. The horse and the buggy with their Indian heart. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, hey. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, hey. Do you want to drive in Kokum's Cadillac? Do you want to ride in Kokum's Cadillac? Geronimo asks her, hey, where'd you get those wheels? Big Bear's in the back, trying to grab the wheel. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, hey. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, hey. Kokum's Cadillac. Hey, hey. Cadillac, hey, ah, hey. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, ah, hey. Do you want to drive Kokum's Cadillac? Do you want to ride in Kokum's Cadillac? She came a long way from Ochapowace Lonesome Prairie with Mushrooms, oxen, and his Model T. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, ah, hey. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, ah, hey. Kokum's Cadillac. Hey, hey. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, ah, hey. Kokum's Cadillac, hey, ah, hey. Kokum's Cadillac. Poor old Kokum thinks her Pontiac's a Cadillac.
That song got in an anthology out here at the First Nation University of Canada. It's edited by Dr. Jesse Archibald, and he put together a lot of stories called Kisichiwan on the Prairies too. If you ever check it out, you should add it to your library. You'll see my song got contributed in there as an art piece that I wrote, and that's one of the things I do. So thanks a lot, Gord. I guess we'll be signing off now.
Thank you very much, Errol, and it's been a real pleasure talking to you. And you're just an amazing guy. And I'm going to send you a recording of this so that you can have a look and listen to it before.
Yeah, right on. Cool.
We
Awesome.
give final production on it. I've been talking to Erroll Kinistino, a singer-songwriter, actor from Ochapowace First Nation in Saskatchewan. Thank you very much, Erroll. Thanks for coming on the show.
Treaty 4 territory. I'd like to give a shout out to Josie Linka, White Bear, for getting the headphones and also setting up the computer and talking with you about the podcast. And congratulations, Gord.
Yeah.
And good luck with the Legacy of Hope.
Thank you very much. Yeah. How do people get a hold of you before, in case someone is interested in talking to you or getting a hold of you?
On Facebook, Erroll Kinistino at Facebook.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Pleasure.